What's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Pokémon DataDex with me, TheOneIntegral. In last week's episode we covered the Pokémon Sableye, the Dark Ghost type with the Mega Evolution Sableye, and I asked you guys which Pokémon you wanted to see this week. It was a choice between Chandelure and Talonflame, and I'm covering Talonflame today. It was very close, it might even have been equal, but when I checked, the vote was slightly swaying in Talonflame's favour, so that's who we're covering today. But next week, obviously, we have to choose Pokemon, and again, as I mentioned last time, I'm going to be giving you guys options from some of the most used Pokemon from the higher tiers. So next week, the vote is between the Ground Dark type Crocodile and the Dark Steel type Bisharp. So do you want some Ground in the mix, or do you just want some nice hard Steel? Let me know by commenting either Crocodile or Bisharp down below in the comment section, and the one with the most votes will be covered next week. But for now, let's get on and have a look at Talonflame. Talonflame is number 663 in the National Pokédex and is a Fire Flying type, very similar to Charizard, as you might expect. It is the Scorching Pokemon, and obviously introduced in Cattle Cast, etc, etc, etc. And dimension-wise, it doesn't really stand. It is 1.2 meters or 3 foot 11 inches big, as in wingspan most likely, and weighs 54 pounds or 24.5 kilograms. Breeding wise, it's in the Flying Egg group only, and the male-female split is 50-50. And evolution wise, obviously it is the flying Pokemon, the bird Pokemon from Generation 6. So it starts from Fletchling at level 17, evolving into Fletchinder, and then Fletchinder will evolve further on to Talonflame, starting at level 35. Base stat wise for your Talonflame, as you can see, its highest base stat here is speed at 126, and the rest is sort of all medium in sort of power. Health point 78, attack 81, defense 71, special attack 74, and special defense 69. So they're all sort of together and all sort of the same. Its speed is its main sort of focus, its main sort of power. That's where it gets all its good stuff from basically, and the rest is sort of just average, and they just back that up. Ability wise for Talonflame, there are two available, one being basic and one being hidden. Its basic ability is Flame Body, which means anyone using physical attacks against Talonflame could possibly get burnt by it. Now this isn't really an often used ability for Talonflame, most likely because of the hidden ability, which is Gale Wings, which gives priority to flying type moves, which is obviously why Talonflame is so popular, because it gets to use all its flying type moves at the start, as opposed to, it has good speed already, but the Gale Wings just sort of solidifies and makes sure you all pretty much always go first, which is quite a powerful sort of mechanic, I guess. But that's Talonflame. If we then move on to looking at its fire flying typing a bit more closely, we can see it resists 6 types, which are grass, fire, fighting, bug, steel, and fairy. It's weak to only 3, water, electric, and rock, although rock is 4 times, so rock is sort of your one true weakness. And then you are obviously immune to the ground type with Talonflame because it's part flying, and then taking neutral from the other 8 types. So honestly, this is a pretty good typing in my opinion. Rock, 4 times weakness, sure, that's the only type you have to watch out for really, and obviously water and electric you don't really want to get hit by, but you don't take as much damage. So rock, and obviously stealth rocks is sort of the real time you have a problem here, because of the fact that they'll do 4 times as much damage as they would to any other Pokemon, but it's okay. As long as you avoid those moves and sort of play it safe with Talonflame, you're generally good, and obviously you can switch it on Earthquakes if you really want to, although it's hard to predict that sort of thing. But obviously, being a part flying type, it also helps get the boost from Gale Wings too, and helps you give stab on flying type moves, which we shall now look at now. So what moves might you want to use with Talonflame? Well, level ups to start off with. Level 25, it can learn Roost. Now, this is a flying type move, obviously it restores health points, and because Gale Wings gives priority to flying type moves, if you use Roost where you have Gale Wings, it will go first. Even if you're slower than the opponent usually, you will go first, which is always a good thing, because it means you actually heal up before you're taking damage. Now this isn't, it's not like it's going to be useful in every single situation, but say the enemy is about to die from poison after the next turn, but you are also about to die to the next attack. Say they're a Greninja and they would have been faster than you. I think Greninja's generally faster. But you can use Roost, you'll you'll go first, hopefully you'll get enough to survive the attack, and then they will die from poison. So plus, who doesn't want to get, because if someone's going to attack you, you're going to lose health points at some point anyway, so if, you may as well Roost first, rather than almost dying and then roosting. So Roost is always good to have you going first. Then level 44, Talonflame can learn Acrobatics. It's a physical flying type move, and it's sort of your sort of, I don't want to say secondary option, but it's an option you can use if you don't want to use the other flying type option, which we'll look at in a minute. Acrobatics obviously does double damage if you haven't got an item, and it doesn't really fit amazingly well with Talonflame because, you know, unless you're using a berry or anything similar to that, you're not really gonna have, you know, lose your item at any point. I mean, you could have Air Balloon, but it's not like you ever use Air Balloon on Talonflame. But you guys get the idea there. Acrobatics is powerful still without this boost, but yeah, it doesn't really get to use it to the full extent. Then level 60, Talonflame can learn Steel Wing. This is not the most powerful move for it, since obviously there's no stab or anything. That's not the most powerful move anyway, but it can be used if you want to just have it around on Talonflame basically. It helps counter the rock type, of course, because obviously fire and flying don't do too well against those. So if you have Steel Wing, that's a good way to counter rock types and be able to do some damage to them. Then at level 64, here is the main flying type move, I guess you could say, which is Brave Bird. This is obviously a recoil move, however. It's really powerful, but it gives you a lot of recoil, which is one of the reasons I might want to use Acrobatics. Because obviously, yes, okay, if you use Brave Bird, you can do a lot of damage, but you can only use the move 2 or 3 times without having to roost, and obviously roosts then use up a turn, and then you might end up taking the enemy Pokemon out, so that's sort of the problem you get there. Whereas with Acrobatics, you do, less damage, but you can sustain it for longer because obviously you're not hurting yourself by doing it. So it's really a toss-up between whether you want just pure power, doing a lot of it, or whether you want some sustained damage over time. Then moving on to the TMs, at TM 61 you can learn the Will-O-Wisp, which is good to sort of nullify any physical attackers. I mean, your special attack is worse than your physical attack, special defense is worse than physical defense obviously, but it's always good, if you're against a physical attacker, to be able to nullify them, because not just for Talonflame, but for the rest of your team too, unless of course they cure themselves of this burn. Will-O-Wisp and having it burn on the opposing Pokemon is something you never complain about really, and because Talonflame doesn't really have an amazingly wide move pool, some cases it will be better to run Will-O-Wisp rather than Steel Wing, for example. Then TM 75, Talonflame can actually make good use of Swords Dance. Obviously this move sharply raises your attack, and because of Talonflame's priority on flying type moves, if you use Swords Dance once or twice, you can get you can go first and you can hit them with really powerful moves like Brave Bird with +4 attack, if you manage to survive the first 2 attacks, and that's really powerful. That's why Talonflame is sort of so I say powerful, but so hated is the other word. Then final move is via a heart scale, and that is Flare Blitz. Similar to Brave Bird, obviously you're going to take some recoil damage from this, but it is your secondary stab. However, you don't get priority from Gale Wings, but of course it's more type coverage. So this is sort of the fire type move you want to run. Talonflame doesn't really get any other better sort of fire type physical stabs. I'm pretty sure it gets Flame Charge, but obviously it's not very powerful. So Flare Blitz, if you want to run a fire type move, is sort of the way to go there. So I'm only going to cover one set to use for Talonflame, simply because there's sort of one way to use it. You can use sets like Flame Body and go defensive and sort of have it, check out your sleeve, but generally this is the set most people use when they use Talonflame. So the moveset is going to be Brave Bird or Acrobatics for your flying type stab, Flare Blitz for your fire type stab, Roost because you want to sort of have some option to not kill yourself in the first 5 minutes, in the first couple of turns of the game, and then finally Swords Dance for all the power. Ability is obviously going to be Gale Wings because that's infinitely better than Flame Body really. Nature is Jolly to give you a speed boost and a special attack drop because we're not using special attack at all, so speed boost is just really to get us all the priority in the world. Held item here, Sharp Beak, which is going to increase the power of flying type moves, which is just sort of putting all your eggs in the Gale Wings basket, or Life Orb just to sort of have powered up damage over your all your moves basically, or both of your moves. So really, Sharp Beak is up to you which one you run here. If you're planning to just sort of use flying type moves and get all the priority off, may as well use Sharp Beak. Or if you want to sort of have the option to use Flare Blitz and still do quite a lot of damage with it, you can go with Life Orb. You can do damage with it anyway once you've got a Swords Dance or 2 off, but you guys get the idea there. EV wise, we're going to have maximum attack, maximum speed, and then the rest in physical defense, just sort of bring it up. I mean, that's just, why not? All the power, all the speed, and then a bit in physical defense because, just screw it, why not? But how would you use this Talonflame set? Well, I'm sure everyone's used Talonflame in the past, there's nothing really too much to say for it. It's a case of sending your Talonflame in, going for a Swords Dance or 2, hoping they have to switch out, if sending it in against the grass type Pokemon, they're probably going to switch out, so you may as well say, right, I'm going to Swords Dance this turn, and then give them the power next turn. Swords Dance once or twice maybe. If they send in a rock type or some of a rock type move, you might want to just switch out and sort of, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for here? Conserve your Talonflame until later in the battle, because if you switch in, go for Swords Dance, and then they switch in a Gigalith, for example, then you can switch out and you haven't really lost anything. It's not like you've lost, unless of course they have Stealth Rocks on the other team, in which case you probably lost half your health, in which case you might want to stay in anyway. But you get the idea. There's no point sacking off your Talonflame to a one-hit kill move, or to a move that's going to one-hit kill you, and when you can actually just sort of conserve it for later on and use it for some more power then. So go in, Swords Dance once or twice, Roost if you need to, and if you're safe to, basically, because obviously remember Roost removes your flying type as well. So if you're expecting sort of something, for example an ice type move coming in, because that's going to be neutral to you, you can use Roost, get rid of the flying type, and you'll sort of take less damage from it. So that might be helpful there. But use Roost if you can, because otherwise you might die if you've already taken some damage. And then just Brave Bird, Flare Blitz, or maybe mainly Brave Bird here. Or Acrobatics if you decide to run that instead, and then just do loads of damage to your opponent and sweep for the team like that. Of course, if you're using Brave Bird, every now and then you will have to Roost, so that's the only point where you might trip up at some point. But that's pretty much Talonflame, really. It's an annoying Pokemon, and that's it, basically. Thank you, Gil. But that's going to be it for Talonflame for today. So remember, do not forget to vote for next week's Pokemon, either Crocodile or Bisharp. Let me know which one to see down below in the comment section, and of course I'll cover the one with most votes next week. But for now, this is going to be it for me for today. I'll be seeing you next time. Thank you for watching. Goodbye, my friends.